Most amateur fighters have same day weigh-ins, and most amateur fighters also don't perform anywhere near the level they're capable of because they're not recovered from their weight cut by the time they step back in that ring. This means that they lack explosiveness, gas out early, and crumble under the pressure. I don't want that to happen to you, so today I'm going to explain exactly how to cut weight and refuel for a same day weigh-in in the most scientifically optimal way. It's tried and tested, and I've used it with hundreds of fighters so far, just like this guy, who went from gassing out in the third round to dominating and making that his strongest round of the fight. And to be honest, I rarely see fighters cutting too much weight for a same day weigh-in, although it does happen. The biggest mistake above and beyond that I see is in how they recover from the weight cut. It doesn't matter if you do a smaller weight cut for a same day weigh-in versus a day before weigh-in, which you absolutely should be doing. If you can't recover adequately from it, your performance is still going to fall flat. I'll explain exactly how to recover optimally in the probably 2 to 8 hour window between your weigh-in and your fight. But before that, let's cover how to actually make the weight first. And if you want a free personalized diet assessment and guide to balancing fat loss and sports performance in fight camp, then click the link in the description for my free fighter diet blueprint. So when it comes to cutting weight for a same day weigh-in as opposed to a day before weigh-in, there are two main changes in our approach. They are: one, we can't completely deplete your carbohydrate stores because there's not enough time to recover, and two, the amount of dehydration you can recover from is much less in a 2 to 8 hour recovery window compared to a, say, 24 to 36 hour recovery window. This means our total weight cut in fight week needs to be smaller. I typically recommend ideally 2 to 4% with a maximum 5% of your body weight. That means if your weight class is 65 kilograms, you would ideally want to be 66.3 to 67.6 kilograms 1 week out, or an absolute maximum of 68.3 kilograms at the beginning of fight week. So let me help translate that into our fight week plan. Here is how things will look. Keep carbs either at your current level or 3 grams per kilogram you weigh from 5 days out. Then from 3 days out, we're going to switch to a low fiber, under 10 grams per day, and a low sodium diet, under 1,000 milligrams of sodium per day. In the final 1 day before weigh-in, we're going to restrict fluid down to 1 to 1.5 liters. Make sure in all those days leading up to that you haven't cut fluid. You want to keep it at least 35 to 50 milliliters per kilogram you weigh prior to this final day where we're going to drop it down. Also, in that final day, we're going to prioritize low weight, energy dense foods to minimize the amount of food in your gut. And then finally, we're going to use active sweating for any dehydration to lose that last few 100 grams if needed. We want that to be an absolute maximum of 3% of your body weight for a same day weigh-in. The reason I recommend active, so exercise induced, for example, jogging, doing your warm up, hitting the pads, hitting the bag, doing some stretching or shadow boxing in either a sauna suit, a tracksuit, or just a few extra layers. And the reason this is better than passive sweating in a bath or a sauna is you can recover from it faster. And because you're only cutting a small amount of weight, 0 to 3% of your body weight via this method, you don't have to worry about accumulating a bunch of muscle damage if you were trying to cut, say, 5% of your body weight using this method. And don't do the sweating any earlier than 12 hours out from the weigh-in. The less time you spend dehydrated, the better. And to help translate this into foods, I'll flash up on the screen how a fighter's diet could look in the regular phase where they're just training, keeping carbs at their normal intake, how that would change when we switch to the low fiber and low sodium diet from 3 days out, and how that would also change in the final 1 day before the weigh-ins when we're focused on low food weight and we're also pulling back on the fluid as well. So switching to the low fiber diet basically involves removing pretty much all fruits and vegetables or focusing on low fiber ones. It also means not adding salt and choosing lower sodium food options. And then finally, in that 1 day, it means specifically, so a low fiber diet will be lower weight than your regular food diet anyway. And then specifically in that final day, the low weight diet means we're going to focus specifically on energy dense foods that don't have a ton of volume to them, like meat, eggs, white bread, sweets, and protein bars. So follow that plan and you should safely and relatively easily be able to lose 2 to 5% of your body weight in fight week for a same day weigh-in. You've made weight, you stepped on the scale, all good. Next, we need to rehydrate and refuel. So there's two components to the recovery that I mentioned there. There's the rehydration, which is the fluid, and the refueling, which is the carbohydrate intake. So firstly, let's sort out your total fluid or your total rehydration target. To calculate that, you do 1.25 times the total amount of weight that you cut in fight week. So that's your 5 days out weight minus your weigh-in weight. Take that number, times it by 1.5. That is your rehydration target in liters. I'm assuming that you're using kilograms for this as well. It would be slightly different if you're using freedom units. So convert it to kilograms to get the right number. Drink at a rate of 1 to 1.5 liters per hour until you hit that target, and I recommend using an oral rehydration solution. That could be a branded one like Hydrolyte or Liquid IV, or you could even make your own 1 liter drink with 500 ml water, 500ml sports drink like Gatorade or Lucozade Sport, and 2 grams of salt. Immediately off the scale, drink 500 to 750ml of your oral rehydration solution, and then drink another 500 to 750ml for the remainder of that first hour. And then continue drinking 1 to 1.5 liters per hour until you hit your total target. That's the rehydration. Let's move on to the refueling aspect of the post-weigh-in recovery. Now, the amount of carbs you're going to be able to consume between the weigh-in and the fight is pretty much entirely dependent on your refuel window. If you have 2 hours versus 8 hours, the amount of carbs you're going to be able to safely and comfortably consume without causing any gut issues is going to be widely different. So a broad general range to aim for would be somewhere between 1 to 4 grams per kilogram of your body weight of carbs in that recovery window between the weigh-in and the fight. Now remember, you haven't cut carbs to make weight, so these just serve to top up your fuel tank ahead of the fight rather than completely refilling it from zero. Make sure they are low fiber, easily digestible carbs, and listen to your body. Pay attention to gut comfort. If you're feeling overly full, then don't force feed yourself. If you have less than 4 hours between the weigh-in and the fight, then here are some high carb snacks that I'd recommend. Jam or honey on toast or as a sandwich, rice cakes with honey or jam and peanut butter, ripe bananas, cereal bars, sweets or sports drinks. If you have 4 or more hours, then you can have a more substantial meal, something like white rice or pasta with lean meat or fish, or some breakfast cereal with milk. So to translate my recommendations and to bring them to life, I want to walk through an example of someone who has to cut 4% of their body weight for a same-day weigh-in with a 4-hour recovery window. Here's how I'd recommend doing things. And just so we're using actual numbers, not just percentages, I really want to bring this to life. Let's say the athlete is 65 kilograms and they're 67.6 kilograms 5 days out. So they're 4% over and they need to make that final 2.6 kilogram cut down to 65. So based on that total 2.6 kilogram cut they need to do, 2.6 times 1.5, gets us their total rehydration target of 3.25 liters. So we know that ahead of time. They do exactly as I've recommended in this video. They keep their carbs at least 3 grams per kilogram body weight. They do a low fiber and low sodium diet from 3 days out. They do low food weight and low fluid in the final 24 hours. And then finally, a little bit of sweating to lose any remaining weight. Let's say they wake up on the weigh-in day, 2% over. They would sweat out that 2% body weight, they'll be on weight, and then they'll go to the weigh-in at 9 a.m. Immediately after the weigh-ins, they'll have 600ml of their rehydration drink, and then they'll drink another 600ml of that rehydration drink across the rest of that first hour. So they've had 1.2 liters of rehydration drink in that first hour, potentially some Haribo as well. So we're topping up the carbs alongside the fluid. So that's from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. They've had the rehydration drink and some sweets. From 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. they can have something a little bit more substantial. Again, they've not cut a ton of weight, it's the same day weigh-in. We don't have to worry too much about their gut being super dehydrated. So they can have some honey, peanut butter and banana on toast with another liter of fluid. I'll put up the carb totals and fluid totals on the screen so you can see how we're spreading things out across this rehydration window. So the first 2 hours of recovery have been completed. We're not going to have any food until the fight because we want to be mindful of gut comfort, and leaving a window of about 2 hours for that food to digest and not sit too heavy in their stomach is going to be a decent idea. That means in hour 3 they won't be eating anything. They'll just be having that final 1 liter of the rehydration drink to hit their total rehydration target. So they're now fully rehydrated, they've topped up their fuel, their carbohydrate stores, and they're good, ready to go. In the final hour before the fight, they'll probably start to begin their warm-up, get their hands wrapped, things like that. What I recommend is they can have a sports drink there and they can just sip it as needed or as tolerated throughout. They could have none if they don't want to have any fluids before the fight, or they could just have little sips throughout, and what that's going to do is that little carbohydrate dose on the sports drink is just going to keep them switched on, keep their brain activated and keep them focused, and provide a little bit more fluid and a little bit more carbohydrates as and when needed during the warm-up. But if the athlete prefers to skip that, that's totally cool as well. Then they would fight at 1 p.m, they put on a great performance, absolutely dominate their opponent because they've set themselves up correctly, not only for the weight cut, but also in how they rehydrate and recover from the weight cut as well. Don't forget to get your free personalized guide to balancing fat loss and sports performance in the description box below, or head to quiz.jamesnicholnutrition.com. And if you want to learn exactly how to fuel single versus double daily training in fight camp or just year round, then I recommend that you watch this video.